YouTube. Oh. Jessica told me not to put the camera on her, so I have to put the camera on her real quick. All right. Check it out. Look at that baby. She's up here trying to do some research. And I told her she has to be quiet. She can't type so dang loud. I'm talking to my invisible friends on YouTube. Got a little cough this week. This broadcast may be interrupted by frequent me coughing. All right. What's up, everybody? We got a nice dry season coming upon us. And it is really dried up here. It's nice. Cassie, Mutant, Seven Hall, JB, Treble, Melba Round, and Case Arshel. What's up, everybody? I'm going to wait for some more people to come in before I really get into the meat and potatoes, the meat and cauliflower mashed potatoes of this whole thing. Anthony Palfreeman says, what's your take on the AHA nonsense? Anthony, check out the channel. Last week I did like an hour and a half talking about this whole thing. Yeah, check out. I actually broke down an article that was entitled, "Is the American Heart Association a terrorist organization?" It was a great article written by a guy named Keith, I think. I forget. I think it was Keith. But the guy who wrote it actually sent me a private message. He messaged me and thanked me for talking about his article. That was pretty cool. Mark Avera says, I tried a cauliflower crust the other day. I'll just do without. You're not into the cauliflower. I'm not so into the cauliflower crust either.
We don't do that.
Not impressed. We don't do it either. Oh, Jessica didn't want to be on camera. Here, one more time. One more shot. Holding a baby in front of the computer. She's about to bounce. All right. Mike Moe, what's up, man? He says, hello, everybody from gorgeous weather in downtown San Francisco. Right on. My sister lives in San Francisco. Perhaps you know her. All right. She's a millennial and she's in San Francisco. Have you met her? All right, Mark Avera. No, Catsy, what's up? All right, everybody. So I titled this one, The Vegetarian Myth. The Vegetarian Myth. It's just kind of, we don't have to just talk about that. We can talk about other stuff. You guys got questions, throw them up there. One individual, Mel Brown, says, Tristan, my dog has bone cancer and started on keto a few days ago. Any words of wisdom? I didn't know how to modify for canine needs. She's loving the coconut cream, eggs and spinach, bacon fat, avocado. Right on. There are a lot of people that have used ketogenic diet as an adjunct therapy for cancer. There are also a lot of people that have used a ketogenic diet as a therapy for cancer for their pets. Ketopets.com. Jessica, confirm this for me that this website is up, please. Ketopets.com has a lot of information on using a ketogenic diet for your pets. I am not a veterinarian. I'm just a crazy person on YouTube. Jessica's looking it up right now. Keto Pets. What? Are you kidding me? Ketopets.com just redirected her to proveit.com. Freaking Keto OS killing ketopets.com. Are you kidding me? Keto. There is a keto pet thing. Ketopetsanctuary.com. That's ketopetsanctuary.com, not ketopets.com. Prove It, the super obnoxious multi-level marketing company, has put that. But Jessica just mentioned you might want to also look into Essiac tea. There have been a lot of people who advocate that for cancer, and a lot of people who advocate that for cancer for dogs as well. Sorry to hear about your dog. I hope everything's all right. Dogs are amazing. Our dog Duke is 9 years old now. We were just talking about how he's an old man. He's an old man dog, finally. All right. Mitch Collins says, use a brand called Prescription Diet, the OD product. It works as well as anything on the market. I have not heard of that. But look, here's an issue with the whole diet for dogs thing. And this actually ties in really interestingly enough, to the human diet and kind of the issues with this. Wolves, dogs are wolves, right? Canis majoris. Dogs come from wolves. In the wild, dogs, wolves, are incredibly apt hunters. They eat a nutrient dense, unrefined diet in the wild. Now, we've taken these dogs and we've domesticated them. We've put them in a highly controlled environment, which is safe for them. We've controlled their breeding. We've bred them in all these different little forms and kind of messed around with them so much that we've completely changed them, like many of the foods we eat. And kind of like our own genetic code as well, when you really think about it. Bye, Jessica. Thank you. So we domesticated dogs. We take these wolves that eat a wild diet. They hunt in packs. They're amazing creatures, incredibly intelligent, robust, powerful animals, apex predators. We take them from the wild, where the top dog, the alpha, would be eating raw heart, raw liver, brain, raw bloody meat, bone marrow. That's what wolves and dogs eat. We take them, we domesticate them, we feed them corn, grain, we feed them corn and wheat that are soaked in glyphosate, soaked in pesticides, and these processed kibble crap. We feed our dogs the equivalent of Lucky Charms cereal every single day, right? So, I mean, just changing your dog to a simple whole foods diet, giving it raw meaty bones, organ meats, stuff like that, fantastic. I mean, as far as using a keto diet on a dog to treat for cancer, not an expert on it, but we've been feeding our dogs a whole foods, real dog diet for years. We get them meaty bones, grass-fed meaty bones, bone marrow, organ meats, and stuff like that. So yeah, I would highly suggest talking to your local butcher or finding some way to source good, whole, nutrient-dense foods for your dog. Raw meat is what dogs are meant to eat. They're not meant to eat kibble. All right. But yeah, check out that ketopetsanctuary.com. Hopefully they help. Steel Belt Scream says, I've been diagnosed with a stomach ulcer. Is it still okay to do a keto diet because it's high in fat? Okay, so you got a stomach ulcer and you're wondering if you can do a ketogenic diet. I mean, I don't see a reason why there would be some sort of a contraindication. The way you worded your question almost makes me think that you think that high fat foods would exacerbate an ulcer. I mean, most ulcers seem to be stress related. So I'd say a first line of defense against that would be to work on some stress management situations. Um, Easier said than done, right? Sometimes we got to take a look at our life and be really, really brutally honest with ourselves about what's working and what's not working with the habits that we're engaged in every day. But, as far as using a ketogenic diet while you've got an ulcer, no contraindication. But like if you're trying to adapt to a ketogenic diet and you're under an extreme amount of stress, which you having an ulcer indicates to me that you're under a lot of stress, right? So if you are under a lot of stress, it might not be the best time to remove carbohydrate from your diet. Perhaps you want to reanalyze your reasons for doing this and maybe work on some stress reduction first, and then shifting your diet to a ketogenic diet. And of course, nutrient dense, whole food, unrefined diet, not the industrial waste corporate diet that we're spoon fed, through propaganda, television, government organizations like the American Heart Association, which is not even a government organization, but parades around as such. Yeah, so eat a nutrient dense, whole food, unrefined diet. Cut out the crap, cut out the grease, right? The refined sugar. The grains themselves might even not even be a problem, right? But removing them is removing major sources of inflammation, omega-6 fatty acids, and glyphosate. Grains might not be the case if you if you talk to a lot of people like me, if you talk to a lot of people from around the world, a lot of people who travel a lot too, I know a lot of individuals who split time between the United States, South America, and Europe. Now, a lot of individuals who, when they're in the United States, are not able to eat any grains, wheat, anything like that. No grains. If they eat bread, they feel shitty, they get inflamed, they feel terrible. But when they're in Europe, it's more palatable, but they don't get the same negative reaction. What is the difference between the grains in Europe and the United States? Well, in the United States, Monsanto, which is recently bought by Bayer, formerly IG Farben, used to make Zyklon B. Bayer bought Monsanto. So in the United States, you've got this kind of circle jerk monopoly over the entire food industry, over the entire medical industry. And now you have them joining forces like Megatron before our very eyes with Bayer purchasing Monsanto. In Europe and many other places in the world, there is not the widespread use of glyphosate. And that's one of the major differences I see. So I think it's very interesting that many individuals can handle wheat, can handle grains when they're in Europe, but when they're in the States, it messes them up. Fascinating stuff, right? All right. Cameron Ross says, interesting title of the video. I just watched a documentary on Netflix called What the Health, and how a vegan diet is pretty much quintessential to health. Any comments? I've not seen What the Health. I don't care to see it, not because I'm dogmatically against veganism. I was vegan. I have been a vegan. I have trodden the dark path of veganism. No, not religiously, was never a veganer than thou person. In fact, when I was doing a vegan diet, I didn't really even like to talk about it because the amount of obnoxious, dogmatic, yuppie scum snobbery that comes from the vegans, right? Not all the vegans, but some. I got lots of vegan friends who are incredibly well adapted to life people and who do a vegan diet because it works for them, right? But then there's also a lot of people that I know that are super obnoxious with it, right? Another reason to stay off social media. The little keyboard warriors veganing away with their memes about the evil people who eat animals, right? So the title of this broadcast, I called it The Vegetarian Myth. The Vegetarian Myth. And it's in regards to an article that is a review of a book that's become very popular. The book is by an individual named Lierre Keith. And then the book's called The Vegetarian Myth. Apparently, it's causing all kinds of upheaval and uproar among non-vegans and vegans, or vegetarians rather, alike. So I wanted to kind of talk about this article, which is a review and a breakdown of the book. I've not read the book yet, but I have read this review and breakdown. And it seems like the author of this book has laid down a very cogent and intelligent argument against the absurdity of this vegetarian dogma that's being pumped out, not only through repeaters on the internet and social media, but through massive corporate influxes and massive infusions of corporate money, right? Who made What the Health and who marketed What the Health, right? That's what I have. That's a question I got for you. So Cameron Ross, I don't know the answer to this, but the first thing that comes to mind, the first question that comes to my mind is, who the hell made What the Health? Who funded this documentary? Where's that money coming from? And that's a really important question to ask about any media that you consume, right? Why is this being put out? Nobody publishes articles. Nobody puts out content. The news doesn't put out content just to do you a service, right? I'm sorry, but that's not how it works, right? These websites promoting a vegan diet, saying like, the American Heart Association, stuff like this, these are not just altruistic organizations that exist inside of a vacuum. These are organizations that exist inside political, economic, and social structures, and they've got street, right? Okay. The vegetarian myth. The reason I decided to call it the vegetarian myth is I got a great email today from Henrika. Henrika's got 2 Ks in the name, which I think is awesome. So I'm going to read this email from a viewer who went to our website, primaledgehealth.com, and emailed me and said, hey, I'd like to ask you guys something, and I don't want you to hold back or be nice or anything. So here we go. I'm obese. I have been for many years. I tried keto for 6 months before, and I lost 45 pounds over that time period. Then I got introduced into veganism, and you know what happened, she says. Well, I don't know what happened. I mean, I know people who've done a vegan diet and who've done it long term who are great people and are healthy. I also know people who've done a vegan diet, who've done it long term, who are withered, pallor, and completely devoid of physical energy, right? Everybody knows the typical like stringy, methed out looking vegan, all black clothes with like stupid patches all over themselves, pretending to be a political activist, living in their mom's basement, complaining about how they hate their dad. We all know those vegans. That's not all vegans, right? So, I mean, I don't know what happened when you started a vegan diet. All right, so you said, then I got introduced to veganism, and you know what happened? I was maintaining my weight for a good while, and I stopped caring about my health again, got into binging, depression hit me again. Now I've been trying to lose my weight for a few months now. It's been going really slow, but I feel like shit, absolute shit. I'm bloated all the time, tired after eating, unmotivated. I've tried everything. I don't know what to do. Can you please tell me what to do? I want to try keto again, but it's been drilled into my head that eating animals is bad for you and you will die if you eat fat, and it's not ethical. Help me, please. What am I supposed to do? So there it is. Individual, obese, been obese for years, on a ketogenic diet, but then allowed the influence of some outside propaganda source to convince her that what she was doing was wrong. Not just physically, right? Ooh, the fat's bad. Ooh, the American Heart Association says a coconut oil might raise your cholesterol. Cholesterol's bad, they say. Even though when you look at the associations around cholesterol, right? What is cholesterol associated with? What is low cholesterol associated with to start? Well, low cholesterol is associated with depression. So I see right here something well, 45 pounds, then got introduced to veganism, low cholesterol. Now they're depressed and inflamed. Fantastic, right? So the standard American vegan diet usually consists of processed grains like soy, wheat, and corn. Mostly that, right? That's what the vegan diet is for the most part in the United States. There's a million different ways to do a vegan diet, just like there's a million different ways to do an omnivorous diet, a human diet, I'll call it, right? There's a million different ways to do vegan. But most people in the United States, the vegan diet they're doing, there's a little battle downstairs. Ariana's bummed. Ciao, Jenny. Hasta jueves. Tenga buena noche. Gracias, amiga. Ariana's so sad and her friend's leaving. So sweet, just pure love. And the thing is, actually, she's not just sad. She was playing with her friend Jenny. Jenny comes. They work on some reading and writing stuff in Spanish sometimes, and Jenny helps clean the house and whatnot. So sweet. Ariana loves her. She wants to spend the whole day with her when she's here. And but the thing is, Ariana's also very hungry. So Ariana had a decent breakfast, but she hasn't eaten since breakfast. And what I think's going on is it's breakdown hour, where she's having so much fun. She's so hyped on life that she can't be stopped to eat, right? She was playing with water balloons outside. She was reading with Jenny. She was cleaning. She was doing all kinds of stuff. But now she's going to eat. You're going to eat now, right, Ari? No? Yeah. She is. She's going to eat. She doesn't want to, but she's going to, and she'll feel totally better after that. So anyways, what is cholesterol? Suppression of cholesterol associated with? First of all, it's associated with depression. Second of all, it's associated with sarcopenia, the loss of lean muscle mass, and brain atrophy. So not only is a vegan diet removing super important nutrients like vitamin B12, vitamin K2, fat soluble vitamins that you're not going to find in the plant world. Not only are you removing these and removing major sources of DHA, right? Where are you going to get DHA from? You can't get it from algae. We can't eat algae. We need fish to eat the algae to convert it into a usable form, to convert that DHA and put it in the SN2 position so that we can actually assimilate it into our cell membranes and use it. We need fish to do that. This is part of the circle of life, right? This is something that the ethical vegans don't understand. They put the blinders on. They completely ignore nature and create this completely false narrative, this fake dogma of cherry pick BS. They paint this picture of, you know, the veganism and vegetarianism as being the cure for everything, right? It's like, not only is veganism to the vegans and the vegetarians, not only is it a cure for the, you know, the health issues of the world, right? If you just eat more veggies, if you just eat a vegetarian diet, you'll be healthy, which is completely untrue, right? Most vegetarians are eating like vegan cookies from the supermarket. You know, most of the vegetarian foods are in the center aisles because they're all processed, refined crap, glyphosate soaked grain that's all consolidated under an umbrella of corporate entities like Bayer and Monsanto, right? Nazi IG Farben became Bayer, bought Monsanto. Antitrust laws? Don't know. Donde está? Anyway, suppression of cholesterol leads to depression, sarcopenia, muscle loss, all kinds of issues. So here's an individual right here, this poor woman, ketogenic weight, and now has completely bounced back because we got convinced by the whispers of nonsense into doing a vegan diet instead. And now she's afraid to go back to keto, right? The propaganda has gotten so intense. It's actually taken it into her subconscious so much that she's afraid to go back to what actually works, right? So Henrika, I'm sorry about your ups and downs here, but first of all, stop looking for diet. Stop looking towards diet as some sort of like spiritual salvation. Your diet is not going to make you more ethical. Your diet is not going to make you a better person, right? This vegan thing, it's nonsense, right? Even if you, all right, let's get into this article. Let's talk about the vegetarian myth. All right. So this individual, Keith, talks about the three main points that vegans like to make, right? So there's three arguments that the vegetarians, shouldn't even say vegans, there's vegetarian and then there's the vegan, right? Vegetarian, it's all right, but the vegans, ooh, super extreme. And in the world of the internet, extremes get attention, right? Anyways, vegetarian for a while and it sucked. Couldn't imagine going vegan. Anna Lapari says, I was vegan for 7 years, and one day I was seeing burgers in my third eye. My body was craving beef badly. Body was so deficient in nutrients, B12, iron, etc. I went on a meat binge for 6 months. Right on, Anna. Okay, so all right. Anna Lapari says, hi, Tristan. Your channel is awesome. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you. Mimi Louise says, love fish. Yeah, fish is awesome. Ooh, the Storm Chaser says something really cool that I'm going to get back to, but I've got to finish some of these points. Let's go over the three main vegan arguments. Oops. The three main arguments. The three pillars of vegan dogma. The three-legged stool. The flimsy, plastic, mass-produced three-legged stool that the vegans stand on are three main arguments. One is a moral argument. Meat is murder. Meat is murder. Meat is murder, they say from their basements, in the suburbs, completely disconnected from their food sources, right? Most vegans, how many vegans do you know that have a farm? How many vegans do you know that even have a garden, right? How many vegans do you know that grow their own food? How many vegans do you know that have grown enough food to supply their own family? 90%, or not 90%, but most of you are saying zero, right? All right. So you got the moral argument, murder, meat is murder. Okay, we can talk about that. You've got the political argument. We can only feed the world if everyone's vegetarian, right? Then we've got the nutritional argument. Did I just I accidentally muted it for a minute, but I think it's back now. Sorry. All right. Meat is murder, moral argument. Political argument, we got to, we need meat to feed the world. And nutritional argument, it's healthier to be vegetarian. I don't know how far I'm going to go with this. I don't know how crazy and far out there I'm going to take this. But let's take this one by one, right? First of all, you got the moral argument, meat's murder. This completely breaks down if you have any iota of intelligence and if you have any knowledge of where your food comes from. Anybody who's had a garden understands that to grow vegetables, you need animal input. Not only do you need like animal-based compost, manure, poo-poo, caca de vaca, not only do you need those things, but you also need bacteria. You also need dead, rotting animal carcasses to replenish the calcium in the soil. There is a delicate balance in the soil microbiome of the breakdown of organisms, right? When you die, your body goes back to the dust. Your body goes back into the soil. And a healthy soil that will grow vegetables, that will grow vegetarian foods, requires animal input. Also, mass industrial waste farms get most of the food that we have now, including most of the meat, which is unsustainable, right? Agriculture in itself, mass producing these foods is unsustainable in and of itself. So the simple, just looking at, no, we're talking about moral argument, right? Moral vegetarians, we shouldn't kill, meat's murder. First of all, you have to realize if you're a vegetarian, and Henrika, your friends who are brainwashing you into this dogma, trying to convince themselves at the same time that they're doing something right, trying to find something to fill their life with meaning, right? We live in this industrial society. We live in a society, a consumer-based society, where we're inundated with corporate propaganda, corporate food, mass-produced crap all the time. We all feel this in our consciousness. We all feel this in our subconscious, and we know that we're capable of something much more profound, much more fulfilling, and much more awesome than we're creating, right? We all kind of subconsciously pick up on that we're not really treating the garden as well as we should. So the moral vegetarian argument is like, kind of comes down to this dogma of all the ills of the world are caused by humans eating meat, right? There's so many different ways you can attack this argument logically and break it down. The first one is just looking at actual nature, right? Look at nature. Look at the cycles of life. Look at what feeds the soil. Look what inputs are required to have a properly functioning soil biome. The same inputs are required for our microbiome, right? Our microbiome is linked and yoked to the soil microbiome. You can't eat any vegetarian food, especially this mass-produced industrial waste crap, like that contains soy, wheat, corn. You can't eat any of these without having blood on your hands, vegetarians. You know how many field mice get thrashed up in these threshers? Field mice, frogs, rabbits, snakes, insects. You know how many of these are displaced? Do you know how many organisms are killed by the mass spraying of glyphosate everywhere? Tanya Eubanks says, I've had Hebrew roots people insist we all eat a pre-flood vegetarian diet. No joke. Yeah, no, in a lot of the like movements there, there's a huge raw vegan, like Black American movement right now, right? Like, so among Blacks in America, and there's like a lot of people on YouTube talking about like, we got to eat this pure diet, like food from the sun, and this is happening. There's cults forming, like you mentioned, Hebrew roots people. Like, there's a lot of these different groups. There's also like the Egyptian stuff, right? What do they call themselves? Like the Black Egyptian people, whatever it is. Yeah, raw till death diet, she says. Raw till death. which will come rather quickly. Unfortunately, yeah, it's crazy, right? Tanya is noticing what I'm seeing too, is the popping up of all these cults, and a lot of them are diet related. But a lot of people that I've met recently even just came to mind. Anyways, let's go back. We're displacing loads of animals through this industrial waste diet. The consolidation of the food supply into the hands of such a small group of corporate entities like Monsanto has allowed the mass rape of the topsoil, right? We're destroying it with glyphosate, binding up vital minerals and nutrients. Glyphosate is an antibiotic. It chelates the soil, right? There's an interesting conversation going on here that I'm popping in with Tanya, and she's talking about like the Hebrew roots thing and how they talk about like pre-flood there wasn't mention of eating of meat. Yeah, isn't that an interesting thing though, that like even before the fall, there's not even, I don't know. Genesis is fascinating, but thank you, Tanya. Very interesting points you're making there. Yeah, food worship, not cool. Exactly, food worship. Worship your food, creating a whole religion based around a diet. You look at the moral arguments of vegetarianism, veganism, that's really what it comes down to. It is a religious dogma. And it doesn't even make any sense on, like, if you even look at it, even if you empathize and you see it how they're seeing it, it's so easy to take down these arguments. I mean, these paper tigers. Right, whatever. So. The moral argument completely falls apart when you look at the destruction that modern agriculture exhibits, right? Modern agriculture is destructive. Now, all right, let's move forward. All right, the next point that the vegetarians make, and this lady who wrote this review of this book lays out the arguments that the author makes. The political argument, we can only feed the world if everyone is vegetarian. This also completely falls apart when you actually look at it. The vegetarians and the vegans, they start citing all this magical mathematics of like, well, one cow requires 10 billion gallons of water. And it's just this insane, like cherry-picked BS that they find in statistics, right? So you can statistically skew somebody's perception, or you can skew someone's perception by throwing out certain statistics and cherry picking them, right? So they cherry pick statistics that all have to do with grain-fed cattle. Madness. So we have animals, we have ruminants. We have ruminants that are designed to eat grass. They chew the cud, right? That's what a ruminant is. It chews grass up, swallows it down, digests it, takes that grass, puts it into a form that we can eat, aka the flesh of these animals, like bison, right? Like the buffalo, like cattle. The input from these cattle actually remedies the soil, right? But not the industrial waste soil that you're growing corn, wheat, and soy on. You don't need manure for that. You just keep spraying that glyphosate and the herbicide, and the other herbs won't grow, right? They drench it in these chemical phosphate fertilizers to force growth with no presence of bioavailable nutrients and minerals. So then you're feeding cows this highly inflammatory omega-6 based grain-based diet that destroys their health, makes them less healthy to consume for us, but then it also destroys the soil even more because you're feeding them input that's destructive, aka wheat, soy, Monsanto-based crap. Was that a subliminal image? What image? All right. So there you go. So here's a little quote. Keith describes how a cow, for example, is entirely reliant on a magical internal ecosystem comprising bacteria, fungi, and multiples of microbial cultures. The cow is feeding on the bacteria and the microbes living within, feeding upon the cow. It is the way of life for/in a ruminant. Grains turn the normally neutral rumen, which is the first stomach, acidic, which makes the cow sick and bloated. And she says not dissimilar to the effect that grains have on many humans. I tend to agree with that. Hence, we should not be feeding ruminants grain. Ruminants, by definition, need to chew on cud, grass. Joe Salatin, one of the role models for the local sustainable model, does the math for his 10-acre farm. So this is in response to somebody who does this fake math, and they claim that the vegetarian claim from the British group VegFam says that a 10-acre farm can support 60 people growing soybeans. 24 people growing wheat. Woohoo! Wheat and soybeans. Growing corn, or only 2 producing cattle. All right, no citation of where these numbers come from, just completely cherry picked, thrown out there. That's how the veggies roll, right? Throw out weird stats that nobody can back up. So then there's this other guy, throws out some stats. He did the math on his 10-acre farm in Virginia. This guy on 10 acres produces 3,000 eggs, 1,000 chickens, 80 hens, 2,000 pounds of beef, 2,500 pounds of pork, 100 turkeys, 50 rabbits, and a few inches of topsoil. I guess that's per year. No fossil fuels needed whatsoever. That doesn't sound possible to me. What do you mean no fossil fuels needed whatsoever? I don't know if that's true. But then she says, the chickens get a bit of supplemental grain. A lot of chickens are fed corn. Here, they actually feed the corn. They feed the chicken corn that they grow on their own property here, right? So if you got chickens here, we've got chickens down below in our garden. We get corn from right behind us on the other side of the mountain, and we do feed that corn to our chickens. Now, the beef and the cattle that live in Ecuador and in the Andes do not need to eat grain because they've got abundance, right? Which is just growing, which is just there. Their natural food source is there already for free. And when they eat it, they poo-poo on the soil, and they put their bacteria in it, and they remedy the soil. It's part of the circle of life, right? If you watch a goat, you've ever had a goat, you can look at how goats eat. They will go along, and they will just eat one layer of shrub, right? They pick the parts they want, they let the rest grow. They don't just devour everything around them. They pick and choose the nutrient-dense foods, and they let the other stuff grow so they have food for later. They're highly intelligent, right? If you give ruminants enough space, they are. People keep trying to start fights with people online. This is stupid. I pop in and I look at the comments every once in a while. What's up, everybody? We got a lot of people watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you've got questions, comments, you just want to, drop down what you have to say here, make sure you're signed in to YouTube or Google Plus or whatever, and you can comment live, and you can actually ask me questions. Jessica says, I love your channel and wife cooking. I started watching your channel when I started keto. Very helpful. Right on. You love my wife's cooking. If you love my wife's cooking, my wife, who is right there holding a baby all damn day. If you like my wife's cooking, if you like this channel, make sure to check out the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook on our website. The Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, a training manual for low carb, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine, is available exclusively at our website. You can only find it at primaledgehealth.com. Not going to find it on Amazon. Not going to find it anywhere else. There's no junk recipes in there. It's not a bunch of junk food. It's all nutrient-dense, whole foods ingredients. We actually use very little. There's only a few recipes that even use dairy. And the recipes that do use dairy for the individuals who must avoid dairy, which is not everybody, right? The madness of the internet. Oh, well, some people are allergic to dairy. Therefore, no one can do dairy on keto. Great logic there. Anyways, all the recipes that even have dairy in them, we show you how to modify them. Any recipe that you find online that uses like cream, heavy whipping cream, if you don't do dairy, use coconut cream. There's so many different ways that you can substitute nutrient-dense, energy-rich foods for the ones that you got to avoid, but not dairy. I just put a video about this today. It's just crazy, like the amount of neurosis, the amount of ego, the amount of nonsense that's like spouted out there about keto. I'm just beside myself sometimes. I just sit back and chuckle, right? Like it's just kind of funny to me. It's sad when I've got people that come to me that want my help, that want me to formulate a diet for them that works, and they've already worked with other gurus out there, told them absurd things and given them the same exact cookie cutter plan that they give everyone. 200 grams of fat, 50 grams of protein. It's insane, right? Anyway, let's move on. So I think that's a very, very interesting argument right there, just showing how organic agriculture requires animal input, and in a properly manicured and a properly tended garden, you need animal input and you need plants. Create a proper soil microbiome that will grow nutrient-dense foods that will feed the world. Even the UN, which is a joke. Like, I mean, why would you look to these people as an authority anyways, these bureaucrats? Even the bureaucrats at the bloated United Nations have said that organic, small, local agriculture is the only way to feed the population of the world, the growing population of the world. Not that I really give the UN, the Club of Rome, the Council on Foreign Relations, not that I really take what they say as gospel, because it's obviously they've been wrong hundreds of times, right? I mean, the Club of Rome used to say that by the year 2000, we would have so many people on the earth, we wouldn't be able to feed any of them. There would be mass starvations, death, and all this destruction. Well, they were wrong. They're still a population campaign, and they're doing a damn good job, right? Look at the vegetarian diet. Look at what the health. Look at the skyrocketing rates of cancer, autism, autoimmune conditions, neurodegenerative diseases, skyrocketing rates of all this, right? Waste diet is not nourishing us. It's not. It's not nourishing us. The Fruity Pebbles, the Cocoa Pebbles, the wheat, soy, and corn, it's not working. It's making the cattle sick. It's making us sick. And it's making us dumber, right? But hey, you know what? If I was the UN, I would be very, very happy with how things are going, right? If you're trying to dominate people, if you're trying to control people, you want them stupid, weak, and sickly. Now, me, myself, I don't want people stupid, weak, and sickly. I want my family. I want my loved ones. I want the people of the world to be vibrant, healthy, connected, conscious, aware, and living life intentionally, filling it with meaning, right? I want us to tend to the garden. I want us to make this beautiful. It already is beautiful. It already is amazing, even with the incredible effort that, Monsanto and all this, we can point the finger at everyone else, but even with incredible effort that us as humanity, the incredible amount of energy we're putting in to confuse, confound, dominate, and destroy ourselves, even with all that going on, there's still so much beauty. There's still so much life, right? You look into the eyes of a child before they've been educated in the public education. You look in the eyes of a child and you see that life. You see that curiosity. You see that wonder, right? And that's still here. So you hear me rant and raving about Monsanto, chanting down Babylon day by day. I'm not just sitting here pointing the finger out there. We got to look inside for the answer, right? And even the UN has admitted that small-scale, sustainable, community-based agriculture is the only way to feed the world. So if we really look inside, then we've got to start correcting our relationships with our direct environment, right? With our neighbors, the people around us, with our family. And we can come up with strategies to nourish, feed, and allow our bodies, our vessels to thrive in this reality. Okay. So talk about the political arguments for vegetarian veganism, which are completely backwards. In my opinion, completely driven by corporate greed and by the desire to monopolize control over the food supply that you're feeding to a sickly population and making them sick. And then on the back end, selling them drugs. Remember, Bayer and Monsanto, son juntos, right? It's crazy. But anyways, we have the power to take responsibility over our health. We have the power to take responsibility over our lives, over our thoughts, over the words we say, right? We have the power to take responsibility. Jessica Corden says, Tristan, how do you feel about Stephanie calling you out and talking bad about your keto ways? That's not about people, right? I got no respect for persons. You know what I have respect for? Integrity, for truth. Ari wants me to get off. What do you want me to do, Ari? Hang out with you and play outside? You want to go see Chase? Ari wants us to go do a sauna and swim with some friends. We're going to do that soon, baby. Let me finish talking. All right, Jessica, come on. Look, anybody going to come here? This happens every time I do a live hangout. Some people try to come on and get me to like egg me on, try to make me bash people or something. I don't care about people. I don't care who says what about me, right? I'll respond every once in a while, I'll play the game, I'll throw a little jab back. But in the end, like, I'm not so concerned with that. If somebody wants to bash me, what does it show about them, right? If somebody's going to publicly get on their YouTube channel and call me an idiot because I disagree with something that they said, that's their deal, right? It's all good. Leo Wallens, what's up, man? Ollie Ewan, what's up? All right. Ollie, soy. Absolutely, man. Soy, corn, wheat, the GMO cotton, right? These are destroying the topsoil. Okay. All right, Manuel says, the political argument's moot because big brothers of the world will trump any noble effort. It's about money. I'm not really sure what you're getting at there. Mutant Stoner. Tanya says, we need to connect with people like we used to, right? This isn't connection. This isn't connection, right? This allows us to connect to a certain extent, but a lot of the times it just becomes distraction. Everybody's here. Everybody's social life and heart's all wrapped up in this little box, right? We got to disconnect from this sometimes. We have to create meaningful relationships, meaningful community relationships. So I don't care, like, some trying to ask me about between me and somebody else over some nonsense disagreement on YouTube. I don't care about that, right? I'll speak the truth. I say what's true. All right, I'm gonna bite my tongue. Anyways, we need to come together in our communities, in our real communities, not the fake internet communities, right? Not the fake keyboard warrior communities. We need to get together with our real communities and work towards these solutions, right? The solutions of sustainable, restorative agriculture, the solutions of formatting the diets in our families and our immediate communities that will support brain function, that will allow us to thrive, right? Not allowing amounts of pesticides to be sprayed near our homes. Yeah. I mean, this is a major issue. The autism rates in places like around Sacramento and some of these towns where there's so much glyphosate being blasted everywhere, the autism rates are out of control. And there's a huge correlation between rising autism rates and the use of pesticides in these areas where autism rates are increasing. It's insane. It's insane. So I'm not so worried about infighting and arguing with narcissists on the internet. I'm more concerned with creating real communities, with truly helping people, and with simplifying a message and making it accessible to everybody, right? We're creating here, through Primal Edge Health, through the thing we do, we're not here to create confusion, dogma, division, and eating disorders. We're not here to promote that. We're not here to promote fear of food. We're here to promote a way of life that will give us a foundation that will hold us up so we can thrive, so we can be powerful individuals in our life, so we can be a powerful force in our community to actually create change, right? So quit trying to make people fight over the internet, worrying about personalities and trying to stake out intellectual territory for ego purposes. Who cares? I don't care what anyone says about me. Don't come on my channel and try to get me to bash someone else. Don't go on someone else's channel and try to bait them into bashing people, right? I was like, I saw, like, someone sent me the link to the thing where she said this whatever about me. It's pathetic. But you know what's even more pathetic? The individuals that are egging her on, trying to get her to say stupid shit to make herself look bad, right? Sucks for her. She got baited into it. She said that Dominic D'Agostino is an idiot. She said that she tried to say Dominic D'Agostino is inflamed and this and that. He doesn't do keto. He doesn't know what he's talking about. She said that about everybody. She said, I'm an idiot because I disagreed with her. And I don't say the same thing she says about like everyone has to avoid cheese and nuts. Right. And but what's more pathetic than a 50-year-old narcissist prancing around on YouTube dressed like a Disney princess with the energy of like some freaking anime character. What's even more pathetic than that is the people egging her on, trying to get her to start fights with everybody, right? I shouldn't even talk shit back. Whatever. Forget what I said. All right. Oh, internet. You see, I'm human. I'm a warrior too. But we pick our battles, right? My battle's not with the little jealous infighting. That's not my battle. Fight not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, darkness of this world. So let's spread light, people. Come on. My keto guru is better than your keto guru, says Tanya. Exactly. My keto can beat up your keto. You're not invited to my birthday party. You're not part of my clique. It's pathetic, right? Let's grow up. We're adults. You got a problem with what I have to say? Come to me directly. Come live on YouTube. We can debate the facts. Or we can make it about personality and cutesy-pootsy bullshit. Whatever. Manuel de Leon says, great Q&A, Tristan. Be blessed, brother. Thank you. Be blessed as well. Method of instructions. What's up, dude? Yeah, I agree, man. Method of instruction. I agree with what you're saying, man. You pick your battles, right? Okay. So let's stop talking about that. Don't come on here and try to start infighting with people. It's done. It's been said. I've said my part. You know how I feel. And you know what the truth is. So there it is. All right. Let's talk about the vegans, the veg. So the political argument completely falls apart. And I kind of would like to expand on that a little bit more. Let's look at the fruits of this 20th century government dietary recommendation thing. But let's also look at a historical perspective, just from like the American perspective, right? 100 years ago in America, people would have laughed if their government tried to tell them what to eat or regulate what they ate. 200 years ago in America, people were fighting. Several hundred years ago. All right. I'm getting into American history and all this. The spirit of America, freedom, individualism. All right. Government policy influencing diet in the American populace, disaster, right? The fruits of it have been disastrous. We've got higher rates of autism, right? The autism rates are skyrocketing. Neurodegenerative diseases out of control. Diabetes, obesity, cancer, all of these things out of control. Of course, diet is not the only input, right? There's also many environmental inputs that will affect all of these health markers. But look at the fruits of this. Look at the fruits of like this high carb crap that they've been pushing. And it's not even that it's high carb, right? A lot of people are like, oh yeah, the government, they push that high carb diet. It's the carbs, it's the carbs. Well, it's not really. When you look at the evidence, right? You look at the blue zones, these populations of people who eat carbohydrates and are still very healthy. It's not the carbs that are killing us. It's the industrial waste processed foods, right? It's crap. You're eating industrial waste. So the political argument, I think, is completely backwards. And I kind of see it as like a Trojan horse, right? The fruits of government intervention in the American diet has been a dumbed down population that's more depressed with their low cholesterol levels. They're on drugs. They're on statins, which suppress cholesterol levels, make you depressed, give you sarcopenia. They're physically weaker. They're mentally weaker, which means you're less potent, right? You slow poison the warriors until they can't fight the real battle anymore. Can't even see it, right? Everyone's so worried about this little thing, that little thing, infighting with each other about bullshit, that the bigger picture is meant to see the government intervention in the diet in the 20th century as the Trojan horse that's allowed the dumbing down and the poisoning of the population by these corporate interests that are making money on the back end, right? The circle jerk of life, Monsanto and Bayer, poisoning the people with a consolidated food supply of industrial waste products, then selling them drugs to correct the illnesses, to cover up the symptoms of the poisoning that they're getting through the food and the environment. It's absurd, right? So it's a failure. It's done. It's a weak argument, and it doesn't make sense on any level. So that's the second one. What's the third argument? You got the moral, you've got the political, the health, the nutritional argument. I mean, vitamin B12, vitamin K2, fat soluble vitamins. I mean, it's been shown ad nauseum that animal products are crucial to human life, right? Okay, let's move on, guys. Nathan, what's up, dude? Nathan says, just downloaded the Ketogenic Edge cookbook. Going keto has been amazing for my training. Love your channel, dude. Wow. And did you just start keto? When you say keto has been amazing for my training, it's like when you first start keto, usually the training intensity has to drop, right? Because you need to. Andrew, what's up? Andrew boy, how's it going? Andrew says the USA is killing us all. Over 2,000. How's the USA killing us? Andrew says vegans kill my edible insects and snails with their insecticides. It's my food. The USA is killing us all. Exactly. The vegans are killing Andrew's food. Andrew has been doing a zero carbohydrate diet as an adjunct therapy for his cancer for a long time, right? So he's saying that the vegans are poisoning and killing his edible insects and snails with these insecticides. And you're absolutely right, Andrew. Not only are they killing these edible insects and snails, rodents, snakes, displacing small owls, birds, other insects, all kinds of stuff. Not only are you killing, destroying all this with mass-produced agriculture, when we could be doing small-scale local agriculture, restorative agriculture, where we're actually building the soil microbiome, building our own microbiome, getting outside in nature, interacting with our communities, healing the rifts between us that cause us to do this nonsense and be all caught up in our ego and our image, right? We could be remedying so much of this, and we are doing it, right? Not we could be, but we are. All the people who are watching this channel right here, you're doing it, right? Source local foods. Enjoy nutrient-dense whole foods. Talk to your neighbors. Build a garden, right? Why you got a lawn when you can have food? All right. Mutant Stoner says, Tristan, have you heard of Dr. Berg? If so, what's your opinion on him? Just curious, not searching for negativity. Thank you, negativity. But this is exactly what I saw when somebody sent me the link to the other person trying to bash everybody, including me, Dominic D'Agostino, like Volek, and like everybody, right? Everybody is less keto than thou. This is the same type of question, right? Like, what do you think of Dr. Berg? I don't care about people. Quote Tristan, I don't care about people. I don't have respect for persons, right? I care about the fruits of their labor. I care about the real essence there. I don't know Dr. Berg. I don't know what he says. I don't know what he does. I probably agree with him on a lot of things. I guess he's somebody who's talking about keto. That's cool. I agree with Dr. Berg that keto can be a good diet in context for some people. That's what I'll say about Dr. Berg. If you want somebody to bash him, go over to another channel. That's where it goes down. This is not where we bash people. This is where we peck through ideas, right? Hey, sometimes you got to bash someone too. Whatever. Like Doc Muscles. Doc Muscles, Adam Nally, I'm calling you out. You're kind of a douchebag. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know you either, man. But Dr. Adam Nally is selling a $10,000 Keys to the Keto Kingdom package. Check out docmuscles.com if you want a good laugh at internet marketing these days. I hope nobody's bought his $10,000 package. That would suck for them, man. All right. Okay, Mutant Stoner. Wondering if you've heard of him. I was genuinely curious. I'm a nice dude, I promise. Yeah, I'm not too sure about him. Look, there's a lot of shysters and snakes out there in any niche. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are trying to stake out their own territory out of a sense of lack, right? Out of fear, like I don't have enough. There's they're like what? All right, everybody loves the infighting. They love all this crap, right? Doc Muscles, Dr. Adam Nally. I will say that is one website that's super funny. If you want to see like the ultimate extreme of like cash in on the keto cow, check out Adam Nally. And of course, like you've got Jimmy Moore too, but check out Adam Nally's docmuscles.com. I don't know how he got the name Doc Muscles. He doesn't have muscles. Robert S. is like, you don't care about people? No, really what it comes out, I don't care about the people. It's what you do, right? It's what you stand for. It's what you are. Not like, oh, well, you called me, I'm this name and I'm special because I did this and that. That shit doesn't matter to me, right? What are you flowing? What are you doing? What is it like to look in your eyes? What's it like to sit down with you and be in your presence? That's what I'm concerned with. The fruits of your labor. Okay. Method of Instruction says when he says he doesn't care, he's referring to vocalizing his opinions on them. If you watch all his videos, you realize he cares quite a lot about people. I care a lot about people. I care too much sometimes. Look, what I don't care about is the personality thing, the infighting over personality. And I'm human, so I don't always not care about that, right? It's like I'm still human. I still get caught up in that stuff sometimes, right? I could still do battle, right? Come on now. I still like a good battle every once in a while, but we got to pick them wisely. Why all the infighting? What's the point? Why? Somebody asked, why Kisk says, do you use alcohol? I don't. Yeah, I don't use alcohol. Right now, I don't use alcohol. I haven't. Last time I drank was probably 2 or 3 years ago. We just had that good craft beer like 4 years ago. I don't know. I probably haven't had alcohol in like 5 years. Why? I don't know. I just don't like it, right? I like when I put something in my body that it makes me more tuned in, that it makes me feel more alive, right? And alcohol is touchy, right? It's not always awesome. Not a big fan of alcohol, especially like the social aspects of how alcohol is used in society. It's a pathetic choice of a sacrament, right? I mean, it's the sacrament of choice in Western civilization, or like Western civilization. That's like such a loaded term. But alcohol is like the drug of choice in American society. It's highly destructive. Sometimes brings out the worst in people, but sometimes brings out great energy from people, right? I don't know. I don't think it's great for your body, like in large amounts, chronically. So it's something I don't do, right? Like I don't do what makes me feel weak. Like I don't know, maybe there's a take home for the audience there. If something makes you feel weak, right? Why would you keep doing it? If something's sapping your energy, why would you keep doing it? Newton Stoner says he's 1 year sober. Congratulations, man. Like I guess I could say, oh, I'm 5 years sober, but I'm not attacking it like that, you know? It's just alcohol is not something that enhances my life. So I don't use it. Right? Okay. Method of Instruction says, can you please finish what you were saying about dialing back training when you start up keto? Right on, man. All right, so you just started keto. Keto can be kind of stressful in the beginning. You're pulling out your main source of fuel, carbohydrates, and you're forcing yourself to run on a different substrate. You have to create new mitochondria so you can actually process these fatty acids into ketones. Your body takes a little bit of time to adapt. In the beginning, you're not going to be able to create as much quick energy. You're not going to be able to replenish glycogen as quickly. You're not going to be able to move as well just because you're not firing right. You know, it's like you just changed over your fuel source. So for most people, dialing back the intensity of training for several weeks, they've done studies with CrossFit on a keto low-carb diet. They found that after 6 weeks, the training intensity and performance. I wish I could try. All right. I don't know. So anyways, intensity of training you might want to decrease it a little bit while you're adapting, just so you don't stress yourself out so much, right? All right, Mutant Stoner. Good job, man. Mutant Stoner has been sober and is not a stoner anymore, even though he's still got the name. Good job, man. Congratulations. Keep it up. All right. Let's see what else. Okay. Let me see. I got to scroll way up here. We got so many people tuning in. Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. All right. Dustin Georgeson says the cookbook is amazing. The cookbook looks amazing so far. Right on. Enjoy it. Like I said, I mean, the famous Jessica. Can you see her? Let's see. Let's peek. Yeah, I see you. I see you. You're like under the stairs. I see Ryder's leg, but it's all blurry. Jessica spent over 1.5 years making this book. 1.5 years. All nutrient-dense, whole foods ingredients. No like artificial sweeteners, no junk food, anything like that. All the macros are fat loss friendly. And all the recipes got macros. The entire section showing you how to use organ meats. The entire section about spices, how to bring out subtle flavors, how to bring out sweetness using spices like cinnamon, right? You can bring out sweetness without even adding sweeteners. So she called it a training manual because that's what it is. It's meant to train you how to master your keto kitchen. So check it out, primaledgehealth.com. If you like what you see, if you want to support the channel, please check out primaledgehealth.com. The Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, a training manual for low-carb, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine, is available exclusively there. So thanks for enjoying it. All right. Dustin says, I like how you structure the means for reform from the individual and then out into the community instead of just trying to complain about what the world's doing wrong, right? Exactly. It's like we could sit here and complain, oh, everybody else sucks, but I'm so awesome. I mean, come on. Like when somebody does that, when somebody gets up on a soapbox and starts talking about how everyone else sucks, you know, it reminds me of just like a child, right? Like a broken child. That's not what we are here. We're not broken children scrambling for ego gratification, right? We are potentially powerful and empowered, conscious individuals who can make decisions that can ripple out into eternity. Not just through our families, but also through our communities, right? And community-based gardening. Look at some of the things people have done in New Orleans with community gardens. People have done some fantastic stuff, right? The ills of society are not remedied by calling society a big jerk. The ills of society are remedied by disconnecting the tentacles that suck our life force, by cutting those out from our families, from our communities, and creating a community, a cooperative community, based on the principles and the ethics that we hold dear, right? So the people we interact with, the people we promote here on the channel, all have similar vision. They want to live in a world where we are feeding our children, our microbiomes, ourselves, our communities, nutrient-dense whole foods that aren't poisoning them. Where we're not destroying the topsoil, where we're remedying the soil, right? Where we're building it organically. And we can do this. But the ills of society are not the ills of society. The ills of society are the issues in the human spirit and the human soul and the human consciousness, psyche, mind, whatever you want to call it, right? The problem's not out there. The problem is not out there. Well, in the duality world, it's like there's the paradox. It is out there, but it's not out there. It's also in here. How are we complicit? How are we complicit in spreading confusion? How are we complicit in spreading fear, hatred? And how can we not do that anymore? How can we make every day, every moment, every interaction more meaningful, more beneficial to everybody around us? We can only do that through changing ourselves, through changing our automatic reactions, through treating ourselves, our families, our loved ones, the people around us, our communities, our friends, right. For treating them right. And you know what's right in your heart, right? You know what's right. All right. Robert says there's something seriously wrong. The new EPA head just allowed a pesticide that the American Academy of Pediatrics wants banned due to brain damage in children. And he allowed it. The EPA is a joke. Don't you realize that? What has the EPA been doing about geoengineering? What has the EPA been doing about that? The EPA is a is a revolving door agency, usually run by the heads of pharmaceutical and petrochemical companies, right? Who's the head of the EPA? What's his past? Who was the head of the EPA before him and before him? EPA, people, you put 3 letters in front of something and you pretend it's like distinguishes it, right? You call something the Environmental Protection Agency. The Environmental Protection Agency has never been about protecting the environment. It's about protecting corporate interests. So the EPA throughout history has land grabbed from private citizens in the United States. You know about this? The EPA and government organizations in California can go on private citizens' land and make up and go find some insect or bug or moth, say that it's endangered, confiscate that land. Then 20 years later, there's a strip mall sitting there. This has happened over and over again in California. The EPA is not there to protect the environment. You don't need government to protect environment, right? We need local communities to protect environment, right? And it spreads from there. Don't allow this filth in your community, and it won't be allowed to spread. Starts in here, then the family, then the community, then it spreads out. Thank you for the questions, the comments, everybody. Method of instruction. What's up, man? Storm Chaser says vegans give the animals this human ego, like killing them takes away all their dreams, marriage, life, goals, pension, time, family. I'm not sure, but I don't think a cow cares if it lives 2 or 20 years. I wish you could talk to me right now. It's Storm Chaser. It's an interesting like thesis. I don't think it really holds up. So basically you're saying that like the worthiness of life depends on ambitions, dreams, marriage, life goals, pension time, family, etc. You're putting the human lens on the animal experience. Can't really do that. I think all life is important. All life is sacred. All life is beautiful. But ain't no cow living forever. Ain't no human living forever. Ain't no vegetable living forever. And ain't no person going to solve the problem of matter has to eat matter, right? I mean, if we want to go down the ethical veganism route, it ends with a philosophy called Jainism, Jainism, right? It's like, well, I can't eat meat because meat is murder. All right, cool. You stick to your guns. You're not going to eat meat. Meat is murder. But what about the murder for making the wheat? What about the murder of every time you walk down the street, you're stepping on ants, bugs, all kinds of little microorganisms? What about when a mosquito's on you? You kill it, right? Or no, or you don't. What about parasites living in you, destroying your health? They have life. They have consciousness. Don't murder. We can't kill the parasites. They're living beings, right? So, I mean, it's like literally, if you take that logic to its bitter end, you end up with this philosophy called Jainism, which holds that anything you do is going to create suffering. Therefore, you do nothing. You stop, right? Anytime you move, you're offending somebody. You're creating, and shoot, every time I get up on YouTube, apparently I'm offending people because they get up on YouTube and shit talk me. But every time you move outside, death and destruction under your feet. So the Jainism is a philosophy that ultimately ends up in the realization of that. And then what do? You can't even breathe. Breathe in those organisms, then they're going to die, right? It's like this is, I mean, it's a completely twisted and backwards philosophy, the whole vegan thing. But yeah, thanks for the comment, man. What's up, Carrie? Okay. I was LMAO when Dr. McDougall said in an interview that people on low-carb diets are starving. All right. All right. We got so many comments here. Look at this. This is awesome. Lots of people talking about how they quit drinking alcohol as well. I think that's awesome. Dr. Ripper says, "Are you a libertarian?" I'm a human. I'm a person. I'm a Tristan. If you stop eating sugar, then Candida starves and dies. That's murder. All these people reducing inflammation are murderers and evil. Absolutely. Right? We're going to go that route. Own it. You're going to take that philosophy. You got to own it. All right. Leo, what's up, man? Go F yourself, says, okay. Being former infantry, I can tell you those shots are horrible. A lot of bad symptoms happen after them. Disagree with the use of those types of drugs. So he's talking about mandatory vaccines in the military. Sorry, man. All-Star Chris NYC says Ron Paul. Robert S. says, "You're a snowflake, a thumbprint." Who's a snowflake? All right. There's so many comments here. This is crazy. Wickisk TV says, "Just look around. All those people in modern society looked and act as their brains are on some tranquilizers. They think and act so slow." All right, look. I love people. I love people, right? Like I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my friends. I love my family. I love people. I love the potential that people have, right? But it sucks when their potential is squandered. And it sucks when it's squandered systematically. Not even squandered, but like harvested, right? It's weird. There was a I'll talk about that later. But he's saying that people look and act like they're on tranquilizers. And this is true. And a lot of these people are on tranquilizers, right? I mean, the standard American diet is making us inflamed chronically, making us feel lazy, making our blood sugar go all over the place. Get home from work, most people sit down in front of the TV and they're programmed. They sit down in front of the TV and they intake willingly weaponized propaganda, cultural weaponry. They just take it in, right? Katy Perry, materialism, hate for your fellow man, greed, envy, lust, pornography. This is what we're inundated with through media, right? Then in between the pornographic violence and nonsense and childish jesting and false reality weaving, in between all this crap you see on the television, you get sold on drugs for ailments. Some of them are just made up, right? But then some of them are real, like the depression you feel because you're working a job you don't like that's meaningless to you, that you may even be like morally opposed to at a deeper level, right? You're depressed, or maybe you're just depressed because you watch too much TV. You just listen to what the news tells you all day. Fear, 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 fear. The world's ending. Blah, 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 blah. Or what is it now? The news, like anytime you turn on the TV, it's like point the finger here. It's all Trump's fault, right? Like he's just like suddenly this one dude just messed up everything, right? Or it's all the Democrats, the Republicans, it's white people, it's this person. That was maybe that's why you're depressed. You're listening to too much of this nonsense, dividing you internally, making you double-minded. But then the solution comes, right? Buy shit. Buy the tranquilizers. Buy some Xannies. Go get some Xanax, right? Like, oh, man, you're anxious. You need the pill. You get some Xanax, right? Oh, you're depressed? Here's some antidepressants, some selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors that'll turn you into a freaking zombie. So it's like, yeah, man, I mean, he says, you look around all those people in modern society, look and act like their brains are on tranquilizers. They think and act so slow. The human potential is not being reached. We're being dumbed down, people. Plain and simple. But it's a choice now. We have a choice. All right? We have a choice whether we want to sit down and take it to the face from the TV or whether we want to get up and do something about this. Create meaningful relationships in our lives. Clean out our hearts. clean out our intentions, wash the dirt off our intentions. There's like a Modest Mouse line, right? I came as a rat. Remember that song? I used to love that song when I was when I was in high school. I was in high school. You had the jocks and the rats. The rats were like all those, like the kids who were into like skating and surfing and stuff, and weren't into like the jock stuff, I guess you'd call it, right? Like not the football players. So we were the rats. We identified as. Remember that song? I came as a rat came out. I thought it was so cool. All right. Wash the dirt off our intentions. I forget what the next line of that song is. Modest Mouse. Anybody remember Modest Mouse? They used to be rad, man. Okay. Okay, Rosie says, day 15 on keto and also quit smoking. Is it normal for me to not have the energy yet to start exercising? I feel like such a blob. Making sure I'm taking magnesium and electrolytes. All right, so make sure you're getting your sodium in. Make sure you're getting sufficient protein in. And make sure you get enough calories in, right? You're just starting to jump in on a huge deficit. So eat it around maintenance. Get sufficient fats. You're not going for fat loss for the first couple of weeks. You've been 15 days and you're feeling like a blob still. Sounds like something's off, right? Something is not lining up right. Quitting smoking can be hard too, right? So you could be going through some major withdrawals still. Keep it up. I'm stoked for you, Rosie. Keep it up. It's your life. It's your body. And if keto's not working for you, admit it, right? It doesn't work for everybody. It's not perfect for everybody. But everyone can eat a nutrient-dense, whole foods, organic diet that is sourced from high-quality sources. Anybody can do that. Uh-oh. Carrie S is fired up. Carrie S says, wait, here, all right, let's see. Whoa. All right, I'm going to go back up here and read some stuff. Method of instruction says, I need to go. Thank you for being you. When a man removes fear from his heart, replaces it with love, simply being in that man's presence will act in the same fashion as cancer with those around him. Interesting. Refine that prose there, my friend. I like what you're saying, though. It's infectious. Life is infectious. Truth is infectious. Speak truth. Others will feel free to speak truth. Others will relax, let down their guard. When you relax into yourself, into the truth, into what you're put here to be, which is not stupid, inflamed, sluggish, and unable to think clearly. That's not our potential. Our potential is way beyond that. Our potential is so beyond that, we can't even imagine what we're capable of. When we truly tune in, when we shut our mouths, focus, and actually look at what's going on, we're kind of massive potential. It's incredible. So thanks for watching, man. Take it easy. DR Ripper says, so many people conflate fasting with starvation. It's fasting if you have body fat to live on. It's starvation when you don't. Fasting does not equal starvation. All right. Okay, let's see. Leo says, yes, drugs and GMO foods and TV all play into this sedative, sedentary lifestyle. It's that's the cycle, right? You get drugged by the television. You get the thought forms implanted, spread out through society. Everybody's triggered by little words. You can get masses of people organized and mobilized in complete irrational, emotional fashion just from a few words. And yeah, of course, the food is sedating, the sedatives, the psycho, here's Ryder. What up, dude? Focus, camera. I'll show you guys Ryder. You guys can't even see him smile. Come on, smile. Come over here. You come hang out over here. Ryder's just chilling at the top of the stairs. You look into a kid's eyes. I couldn't even show you right now because it's all blurry. But it's just pure wonder, right? Just pure life. Making connections, making new connections. New neural networks are forming constantly in their brains. We don't have to get dumber as we get older, right? We don't have to get dumber as we get older. Okay, Ollie, what's up, man? Him too says, hi, thanks for all your videos. I'm doing keto with intermittent fasting for 18 hours a day. How do I know if my body is cannibalizing my muscles and also prevent it from doing so? All right, so if you're worried about cannibalism, maybe you shouldn't do intermittent fasting, right? Keto with intermittent fasting can be a powerful way to lose body fat. But if you're only eating for, 4 hours in the day, you might not be able to get enough calories in there, and you could be setting yourself up for a hormonal situation where you are going catabolic more often. If you're concerned with building muscle, eat. Ari wants to go. All right, we're going to wrap this up, guys. If you're concerned with building muscle, eat more. If you're concerned with building lean muscle tissue, fasting chronically is not going to be a good idea. Now, I'm not saying intermittent fasting is bad altogether, right? It can be really useful, but it's all about context. So make sure you're getting enough protein. If you're getting enough protein, you're not overtraining, you're resting enough, you should be all right. Carrie says, I really enjoy your videos. They've been very informative and eye-opening. Hello from Fresno. What's up, Carrie? Hello in Fresno. Okay. Ollie says, wait, Ollie is talking to someone else. Keto Night says, 7 days on the diet, feel better already. Dude, come here. Hey, come here. Although I'm not really looking at the calorie and specifically the fats and protein, but feeling energetic already and also in line with myself. Right on. Keto Night. Keto Night, I see you've already attached keto to your identity. I warn you, don't build an identity. I know, I'm not saying like literally, but your name is Keto Night on YouTube, which doesn't matter. You know it's all fake. But don't build your whole reality, your whole consciousness around a diet, around a dogma, because all glass houses will be shattered eventually, right? Good news for people who love bad news. That was the album, Dustin. That was, and then the last good one they made was The Moon in Antarctica. That had some great tracks on. That was when they got all popular, right? They got super popular, and then like I was like a little teenage hipster kid, and I was like I wanted them to stop becoming popular at that point. They had that song Float On came out, and it was like all on the radio. All right. Yeah, good news for people who love bad news. What other songs are good from them? What was that one? Night on the Sun. Night on the Sun. What else? Make everyone happy. Mechanical Birds, that song. Or what about, here's a song I like. And this kind of goes back, here's some lyrics. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. This is called Talking Shit About a Pretty Sunset, right? That was a great song. Talking shit about a pretty sunset. Blanketing opinions that I'll probably regret soon. Talking shit about a pretty sunset, right? That's a beautiful song. Talking shit about a pretty sunset. Good band. Name another song. Float On. Yeah, Little Big Head says Float On. Modest Mouse is an awesome jam. That actually was a great song, and it was super catchy. And I was really butthurt that it got on the radio because I used to just despise the radio when I was a little kid. I thought it was the ruiner of all music. Leo says, Tristan, do you temper any of your keto advice when coaching based on what studies indicate regarding carb and dairy tolerance as correlated to race and ethnic descent? That's a fantastic question. Absolutely. But there's really not that. All right. So there's really not that much research or studies about dairy tolerance for race and ethnic descent. But most Europeans handle dairy pretty dang well, right? Not everybody is allergic to dairy. So, of course, I'd temper keto advice when I'm coaching. I'm not going to tell someone who's allergic to dairy not to eat it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody who's not allergic to dairy to avoid cheese at all costs, right? It's nonsense. Okay. World at Large. That was a great song. The World's at Large. Why should I remain? That was a good album. The Moon and Antarctica, right? Two of like that's just a great title for an album too. The Moon and Antarctica. Those are two of like the most mysterious places, and they both represent like cold, right? The moon is like this cold energy. They both represent darkness, but also extremes. And I don't know, The Moon and Antarctica. I love that album. Little big head. All glass houses shatter eventually. That's right. Absolutely true. Robert S. says, I'm 99% European DNA, but I can't do dairy, American dairy, that is. Isn't that interesting? That the A1 and the A2 have a different effect on you. Isn't that fantastic? Fascinating, right? But not everybody's allergic to dairy. So don't freak out here and think, oh, I can't have any cheese. You can have dairy in moderation. There's no problem with it. Nuts, fine. Coffee, fine. Right? If you need coffee to get out of bed, something's going on there. If you're addicted to caffeine, something's going on there. Right? But doesn't mean you can't do keto if you drink coffee. Doesn't mean you can't do keto and eat cheese. But whatever. Listen to whatever information, whatever floats your boat, whatever tickles your pickle. Go ahead. All right. Let's wrap this up, guys. Let's wrap this up. Okay. Leo Wallen says, yay, SoCal. All right. Elizabeth Jensen. Hello in Santa Barbara. What's up? Robert S. Ollie Ewan. Dustin Georgeson. Leo Wallens. Everybody who's joined us today. I give you an emphatic thank you, I guess. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for enjoying. Thank you for giving me stuff to riff on. For all the sweet, awesome comments and questions that people left. If I didn't get to your comment or questions, it's nothing personal. It just means maybe I wasn't interested in it, or maybe I didn't see it, because there's loads of people commenting here all the time. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Ketogenic diet does not have to be difficult, does not have to be confusing, does not have to be a flippin' eating disorder. A ketogenic diet should be something that supports your life, that supports your ability to thrive within this life, in that body you've got, right? It can be empowering to take control of your diet and your health. It can be empowering to be healthy, to be clear-headed. So that's all I got. All glass houses shatter eventually. You can find more at primaledgehealth.com. If you want to check out the cookbook that we mentioned earlier, do go to primaledgehealth.com. If you want to be notified before we do these little live events every once in a while, I'll send out an email before so that you're notified, so you can actually tune in, ask questions, and hang out live. So if you want to do that, go to primaledgehealth.com and sign up for the newsletter. We'll send you a newsletter before we do these. So yeah, leave your questions, your comments down below. Share it with your friends. Talk to your neighbors, right? How about this at the end of this? Instead of saying, share it, like it, blah, blah, blah. How about you go share some time with people in real life? Share some time with your family, with your friends, with your neighbors, with your loved ones. Make it meaningful. Make it awesome. Make that moment better than the one that preceded it. Right? All right. I'll see you guys next time. primaledgehealth.com. Peace.